Good morning, everybody. Thank you all so much for coming out to another really exciting day for our libraries. You've heard me say it a million times, but one of my primary goals when I took office 12 years ago was to make sure that everybody embraced lifelong learning as one of our core values, along with health and compassion, but then bring lifelong learning to life. Any city that you go to that's growing, that's vital, has learners, curious people, entrepreneurs, creating, benchmarking, and of course our libraries are central to all of that. And that's one of the ways that we've emphasized this in Louisville, is to invest in the Louisville free public library system over and over again. Over the last 12 years, our administration has invested close to $55 million in the Louisville free public library system. An amazing amount by any standard, especially right here. So now, thanks to the American Rescue Plans and really tenacious, outstanding leadership from so many people, but I want to call out Katie Dalinger in particular. Katie's over here in the blue scarf, Deputy Chief of Staff, in charge of the library system as well, working with Lee and the other directors that we've had. Katie's constantly, and understandably so, saying, how can we help the libraries? What more can we do? So Katie, this expansion of our library system over the last 12 years has your fingers all over it. We really appreciate your fantastic leadership. Welcome you the best. She's got a big executive job with the National League of Cities right now, and can't wait to see all the great things that you're going to be doing. So let's give it up for our Deputy Chief of Staff, Katie Dalinger. Thank you, Katie. So when you think about what these American Rescue Plan funds have enabled us to do, we've been able to renovate, we're going to renovate and reopen the Parkland Library, renovate and expand the historic Portland Library, and we just broke ground literally yesterday on the new library coming to Fern Creek, 18,000 square feet there. And today, we mark the start of a historic transformation here in this beautiful building of our downtown library. So obviously it's called the main library for a reason. The main library is the nucleus of our library system. It's the largest public library facility in our state, houses the largest collection of any public library in the entire Commonwealth as well. Main provides services which support the entire system, so think of this as the headquarters of our library system, as there are more staff located here than any other location in our library system. This is our flagship library, and as such, should look the part. It's beautiful, but we can always make it more beautiful. Originally constructed in 1906 with the support of philanthropist Andrew Carnegie, the main library more than doubled in size when it expanded in 1969. And we should reflect a little bit on Andrew Carnegie. You know, we have this beautiful collection of Carnegie libraries here in our city, and then some other cities that were lucky enough to be beneficiaries of his philanthropy around the country. Carnegie at the time was I know he's the country's richest man, so he might have been the world's richest man. But when he was asked on, why are you giving all of this money away and doing all of these philanthropic activities? He simply replied, it's not my money. Society helped me accrue this wealth, and so I'm just giving it back to the people that helped out. And what a wonderful thing to say from somebody 120 years ago, and his imprint is all over our country and hopefully an inspiration to many people so that they can give back as well. Now, since 1906, the main library has been cosmetically renovated several times, but aside from undergoing substantial restoration following the 2009 flood, no major improvements have been made since the 1969 addition, which is immediately north of us here, adjacent with this building. So now, thanks to the federal government and their ARP funding and the Metro Council partnership, we'll be investing $8 million in ARP funds as the main library embarks on what will be a massive transformation. So that's the government money coming into that. And I want you all to think about the government money as, who is the government? It's us. So it's our money investing here in the main library. and there'll probably be more private money coming along. We'll hear about that in a second. So this project is going to include improvements to the appearance of the contemporary 1969 edition, the one you see up front here, which was originally designed by Lewis and Henry Architects of Louisville. It's going to include the renovation and reopening of the main library's third floor that was closed in 2018 during the pension-driven budget cuts that impacted so much of Metro. It involves reclaiming the 16,000 square feet of space by renovating and reimagining the existing historic stacks area of the 1906 Carnegie Building and turning it into usable public space. So that's right behind us here, and you're going to see that in a moment as we break through. Also, it's going to include major enhancements to landscaping in the grounds with the possible addition of a public art installation. So this is if you love libraries, or if you love just building and built environment or architecture or art or anything, this is a really exciting announcement here for our city. The new libraries are great and they're beautiful as well, but to take an old gem like this that is handsome today and then upgrade it even more, it will be a national destination for both architecture and certainly library lovers as well. So let's hear more about these plans from our library director, Lee Birchfield.
Our main library should be the best library in the state. And right now, it's not even the best library in the county. Over the past 12 years, through the incredible investment in library infrastructure that Mayor Fischer has already talked about, we've built several new libraries in the county which are really world-class buildings and libraries. And just a couple of examples would be the Northeast Regional Library. If you've been there, it's about 36,000 square feet. Or if you've seen the new St. Matthew's Library that was reopened about 3 years ago, that's also just a beautiful state-of-the-art library facility. As Mayor Fischer mentioned, this library initially opened in 1908, and I want to turn back the clock for just a moment and have you imagine that when you walk into this lobby, what it's really filled with is a giant edifice of a card catalog. Many of you may not know what a card catalog is, but small index card-sized drawers that you have to flip through the cards to find the books you're looking for. Most of the collection was shelved in the stacks behind us, which were closed to the public. So you would walk up to a giant edifice of a service desk and you would have written out the titles that you wanted to take out from the library, and the library staff working here would ring a bell and a page would come down and would get the slips and would go into the stacks and retrieve those items and bring them out for you. On the wing of this building, there was a small reading room that had a circulating collection in it that were open stacks. It was about 20,000 items. So the area behind us has never really been used for public access. There are some issues with it right now. It's not really handicap accessible or ADA compliant. We've encapsulated some lead paint inside there. But what's behind us are 6 floors of library shelving with space for about 230,000 volumes. And when you count all 6 floors, it's about 13,000 square feet of space, which if we can figure out how to make it publicly accessible, will really significantly add to the resources that we can make available to the public here. One of the other issues that's going on right now is the 1969 building has 3 main floors. One of them is the basement level and is used by staff for things like processing books that have been purchased, sorting materials that have been returned and need to go to another branch to fill holes, and we have other staff offices down there. The other 2 floors, the main floor is the one that you're most familiar with and is currently the only part of that building that is really open to the public and providing library services. The 3rd floor of this library, the 1969 building, has been closed for several years. It initially closed due to some budget challenges that we were facing, and Since then, as you know, from any space that isn't actively used, it turns into what? Like storage space, right? So it has collected a number of things over time that we're going to have to find a new place for, but renovating and reopening the third floor and finding a way to make the stack space reusable will really dramatically transform what we're able to do at this public library. So Mayor Fischer already mentioned the sort of core objectives of this renovation project: convert the stacks, renovate and reopen the third floor, improve the exterior appearance of the 1969 building. If you've ever gone to an event at the Brown Theater, when you walk out of the Brown Theater, you can see this building across the parking lot that's there at the corner of 3rd and Broadway. There's nothing on the building to indicate what it is, though. People walk out of the Brown Theater and probably see it and have no idea that it's the public library. So we want to transform the face of the public library that faces Broadway. And then we've got some landscaping issues around the entrance to this building. There's way more concrete out there than I would like to see. We have some opportunities for public art, and we also want to make that space more easily activated. And one other thing I want to call your attention to while you're here is the beautiful statue of Abraham Lincoln that is on the west end of this building. That statue has been here for not quite as long as the building's been here, but it's been here for a very long time. It was here for the 1937 flood. There's a rather iconic picture of that Lincoln statue with the water just at foot level so that it looks like Lincoln is actually standing on the waters of the 1937 flood. Right now, that statue is pretty much obscured from view by some trees, which I will tell you right now are not original to the building. And so part of our exterior renovation plan is we want to figure out how to restore the presence of Abraham Lincoln on that end of the building, make that a much more visible and active space, and recover that treasure for the people of Louisville. In addition, we'll also have space because of these changes. We'll have space to do some of the exciting things that we're doing at our regional libraries that we aren't doing at Maine right now. We'll have space for more books and movies and music. We'll also be able to install more quiet reading spaces. One of the biggest complaints I get from people about our libraries is that they want there to be more places where they can go, where it is quiet, that they can read or do homework or telework. And it's really hard in an environment like an urban area like downtown Louisville to find space to do that. So we want to be able to provide that. We also want to provide more meeting space. We have meeting rooms here, and they are incredibly popular, and we certainly could use more public meeting space, which is available free to civic and community groups throughout the community. But we have some bigger visions than that, too. Building off successes we've had at our regional libraries, we're talking about ideas like a Center for Civics and Citizenship, where people can come and learn what it means to be engaged with a community and a government. Or an AI education lab. You know, artificial intelligence already has an incredible impact on our lives, and people don't really understand a whole lot about it. And there aren't really places where you can go and find out what AI is and what it isn't. What is it? It follows you around the internet and shows you ads for that one thing that you looked at on Amazon one time and will now see ads for the rest of your life. What is it not? It's not killer robots, at least not yet. But AI is going to be so important to our lives, and one of the visions we have for here is some sort of interactive experience where you can learn more about that. So those are just some examples of some things that we can have here very soon. But I also want to ask you a question: what if? The 1969 building was built, designed to have another floor added on top of it. So what if we could leverage the funding that we already have, this fantastic $8 million federal money that we've received? What if we could leverage that and could add a whole other floor? What kinds of new, fantastic, cutting-edge, world-class services could we provide? So $8 million is going to be an incredible transformation. I hope it's only the beginning. Thank you all for being here today. I have some other folks I want to thank. I want to thank Mayor Fischer. I'm running out of opportunities to do this, so I want to make sure I thank him. For 12 years, Mayor Fischer has talked about lifelong learning and the role of libraries in a community, and I really appreciate that. It makes my job so much easier. I want to thank Senator Gerald Neal for being here with us today. I also want to echo Mayor Fisher's praise for Katie Dalinger. She has been a fantastic colleague for the past few years. I'm going to miss her. I'm going to stay in touch with her. I've already told her that. I've got her personal email address, so I'll be seeking advice from her regularly. Metro Council and Bill Hollander. Bill's the chair of the Budget Committee. He's looking forward, I know, to retiring soon, but he has been a friend and supporter of the library since before he was a Metro Council person, so I want to thank him as well. The Friends of the Library are a support organization that provides incredible emotional and moral support for our staff, and I really appreciate the work that they do. They're great, tireless advocates on behalf of the library. We also have a lot of staff people here in the room with us, library staff. If you're a library staff person, go ahead and raise your hand. Our library staff do incredible work day in and day out providing library services to our community. And if you've ever had a job in retail, you know that sometimes working with the community can be a little more challenging than you would like for it to be. So I really appreciate the work that they do and thank them for coming down to see this today. And then finally, I want to thank Chandra Gordon, Executive Director of the Library Foundation. They've provided so much financial support for the library since their founding. I really appreciate the work that they do. Outgoing Chair Bill Dunbar and incoming Board Chair Chris Garrett devote their volunteer time to the Library Foundation of the library, and I'm deeply appreciative of that. So I want to thank all of those people very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. We have not had a more passionate council member than Bill Hollander as it relates to our libraries, because it started long before he decided to be a public servant 8 years ago, where he served with such great distinction in our community as one of our community leaders, as a managing partner at Wyatt Tarrant & Combs, and then also as a super active member of the Library Foundation as well. And he's used his position ably on the council in many areas, from affordable housing to helping our libraries. So we're really delighted to have Councilman Hollander with us here today to talk a little bit about the partnership between the mayor's office and the council and the importance of these investments. Mr. Hollander.
As has been said, I'm wrapping up 8 years on Metro Council and 5 years as budget chair. And I can tell you that a few years ago, when we were looking at budget cuts, we had to make the best of what were all bad choices. We closed 2 libraries in Middletown, and Fern Creek, and the 3rd floor of the main library, as has been said. It was so much better to be calling Lee Birchfield when we had the American Rescue Plan money and saying, what do you need to restore those libraries? What do you need to improve those libraries? What do you need to make the main library as nice as the regional libraries in the suburban areas that have been built during Mayor Fischer's administration? And that's what we're doing. So we've opened Middletown some time ago. We broke ground on Fern Creek yesterday. We're going to open the 3rd floor again, and we're going to do much more for this building. Much of that, not all of it, some of it comes through regular capital funds that we've been able to appropriate. Much of it comes, though, through American Rescue Plan funds. And I always want to thank John Yarmouth, who is also retiring, who chaired the Budget Committee of the House when the American Rescue Plan was passed. It's making a tremendous difference in this city, not just in libraries, but as the mayor said, in housing, where we made the biggest investment, actually. But I am so proud of what we were able to do with the money for libraries. Libraries have great bipartisan support in Metro Council. They need more operating money, and that will be somebody's challenge in the future. But libraries are vital to this community, and I'm so happy to be here today.
And I really appreciate the work of the Library Foundation and all their board members that are here. Thank you guys very much. And Chandra Gordon, their executive director, is just always leading the way in such a positive way.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here again to talk about the great things that are happening for our system. As we stand here in our beautiful, historic main library, I'm inspired. Andrew Carnegie, the man who funded construction of this library and 8 others in our city, called them palaces for the people. And who can deny that? Look around you. That's exactly where we are today. If this building can still take our breath away 100 years after it was constructed, imagine its next evolution. Right now, with the American Rescue Plan funds, LFPL will be able to renovate and modernize this historic structure, positioning our main library to become downtown Louisville's state-of-the-art hub for innovation, creativity, and knowledge. But we can and we should do more. Because in the words of Eric Kleinenberg, a sociologist who has studied the impact of libraries on our country, when we fail to build and maintain our social infrastructure, places like our libraries and our parks, the material foundations of our social and civic life erode. Crimes rise. Older and sick people grow isolated. People get addicted to drugs and become more vulnerable to lethal overdoses. Distrust rises, and civic participation wanes. Public libraries create welcoming and inclusive spaces for every citizen. They advocate for freedom of inquiry and expression. They foster civic participation and economic opportunity, and ensure literacy and lifelong learning. At the heart of these objectives is the premise of equity, a shared aspiration that every person might have all they need to succeed. Just and fair inclusion is an urgent economic and educational imperative, a public health priority, and an issue of human rights. A solid foundation of over a decade of capital investment in our library system provides the opportunity and the momentum upon which we can do more. Now is the time to create a plan for something truly dynamic within the heart of our library system and our city that works for and inspires every Louisvillian. That's why the Library Foundation and LFPL have worked to set a stage to create a vision for the future. We're excited to support LFPL as they create something newer and better within this existing main branch, and we are honored to partner with them to build upon this initial investment with a vision toward a central library that is a model for modern libraries across our nation. We invite you to join us as we dream big, not only for our library system, but for all of Louisville. Thank you.
We're delighted to be here in Senator General Neal's Senate District, and the senators led a lot of dynamic activity that's resulted in progress for our city, equity for our city. He does not shy away from having that hard conversation that oftentimes needs to be had to get to the real root of the issue. And I appreciate his leadership in so many ways, including in our library system. So please welcome State Senator Gerald Neal.
Good morning. This is not church, right? Good morning. Okay. I have to tell you that you're probably wondering, why am I here? You've already heard from the experts, the people who've dedicated their lives to this. You've heard to our great leader of the city, Mayor Fischer, and Lee has already laid out everything, and I think just about every corner of the discussion has been had. I'm here simply to celebrate the fact that this library is being rejuvenated. You see it, you state it as a renovation, but it's a rejuvenation that's taking place. It's taking place right here in what I consider to be the soul of the library system. It's not just a main library, it's the soul of the system. And it's central to what happens in our community. I was thinking about on the way up here, or down here, or whichever way, I've been traveling for the past month, that, you know, this is not only a place that opens minds, it's a place that opens minds to creativity. It's not just a process of learning, but it's also that, I guess it's that pushback against ignorance. It celebrates learning. It celebrates our differences. It celebrates our histories. It protects our histories. And that is a very, very strong statement for this soul of the library system, and therefore the soul of our community. I think I can say that. As a young person growing up, we used to go to church on Sundays, and even though we went to district library areas, we would come to the main library because it was special then. Guess what? It's special now. And because of the investment that's getting ready to be made into this and the expansion and the renovation, I think that we're doubling down in terms of its importance to our community. So I'm here to celebrate this rejuvenation, this renovation. I'm here to celebrate and congratulate those who have stuck with this process, the leadership that's been provided, that has sustained it, and I'm hopeful that we're going to see this library movement grow even more and more by what's happening here. So I want to thank you for that. So, having said that, I always get the pleasure of presenting something to those people who do very important things. So Lee, would you come up just for a second? I'm not going to get into the wording of this certificate from the Senate, but this is a Senate acknowledging the leadership and the work that you're doing. I should ask the mayor to come up too. I think I will. I think I'll ask Bill Holland. I think I'll ask everybody to come up because it's really a team effort if you really stop and think about it. But the fact of the matter is that we celebrate what's happening here. We appreciate what's happening here. I and many of my colleagues, in fact, all of the colleagues I speak with, support this effort. Continue it. You can count on us. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much.
All right, as we wrap up here, folks, there's a lot of excitement in here. This is one of my favorite spots in the entire city because when you come in here, just look around for a minute. You got, beautiful murals. The guardrail is beautiful. The floor is beautiful. The columns are beautiful. What would we call the stained glass above us? This is a really special place. And so now to be able to expand its beauty is going to be even more stunning. So it's really wonderful to be here today to celebrate this. One last note. This investment here complements what will be seen as a revitalization along this couple block stretch of Broadway here over the coming years. We're going to have a fabulous new housing, multi-unit housing right here where the old Brown Brothers property was that will be starting within the next year. Jefferson Community and Technical College, the big open parking lot there on Broadway is going to be radically changed into a beautiful green space and more buildings. There's new student housing coming on this side of Broadway. And then also where the Brown Theater is, there's more housing going in there. So when you think about all of those changes along here with this library expansion, this is going to be a super revitalized node for our city. So I just wanted to mention that as well. Last, I want to thank all of our library team members here. You guys worked so hard, and the way you got through the pandemic was quite incredible, figuring out how to transition on the dime there to go to serving folks that were coming to and from the library outside. That took a lot of flexibility, and I really appreciate that. And the library really shined during that particular time and each and every day. So thank you all for being committed to lifelong learners, and it's been a real pleasure to work with you all over these past 12 years. And I look forward to being a rabid fan from the sidelines as a private citizen.